I was bitten by this bug when I was in the fifth standard to get into civil services. And because one of my senior students in the school had got selected into the civil services. And so it had been a dream. So what I feel is centrifugal to development is the individual. So if any program is made, the centrifugal force has to be the individual, and it was to be a great shock for me to realize that despite this difficulty in their life, they are so positive. So I think the first thing, if a woman wants to develop and come out of this, shell, she has to be very open and forthright in saying that I need this support and I deserve it as much as you have.
Hello everyone and welcome to Policy Talks. We have with us a very dynamic lady officer from the Maharashtra cadre, Ms. Vimala R. Ms. Vimala is an IAS officer, currently posted as the Chief Executive Officer of the Maharashtra Khadi Board. Well, she is a dynamic woman who has worked extensively at the grassroots, especially with the rural development schemes, and her work with the women collectives in particular has been truly commendable. Welcome, Ms. Vimala, to this talk show.
Thank you. Namaste.
It's a pleasure to have you here at ISB. And I would like to begin the conversation with your journey and, in civil services, and maybe you can start from your initial, service days. And how did you get so attracted and touched by the women issue?
Of course, I was bitten by this bug when I was in the fifth standard to get into civil services. And because one of my senior students in the school had got selected into the civil services. And so it had been a dream. And somehow or the other, it really did not work out because when I was trying for UPSC, I could not get through. And then there was a phase when I was very upset and kind of lost. But then I entered into state services. So I've always been on the cutting edge since then. And subsequently, then, of course, there is an induction into the IAS cadre. And that was also possible because I was a deputy collector of the Maharashtra state government. So when I came into the services, there was always a vision of working for welfare schemes. And with great luck, I should say that I've been able to really contribute significantly to most of the welfare schemes which have transformed people's lives in several ways. So I think if I look back today, that perhaps is what I really am happy about, being part of the services and after having joined here, that it has helped me enrich myself, enrich many people's lives and take them to a very beautiful goal in their lives.
Coming to your journey, and you spoke about the welfare schemes. What do you think is the most important aspect in public policy that needs to be taken care of while we are talking about any welfare scheme to have taken off and to have delivered the results that we were intending for?
So what I feel is centrifugal to development is the individual. So if any program is made, the centrifugal force has to be the individual, but with the convergence of the society. Because we've seen that when schemes were initially, when government was in the development mode, people used to take the money, they were perhaps buying cattle or having some other equipments which they used to take, sell it off, and then there was no positive result for the investment made by the government. And so government decided community-based organizations perhaps can add really great value to this. But before that, I think MG Narega was a very important program which came. Of course, it is based on Government of Maharashtra's model of Rozgar Hami Yojana, EGS of Visa Page, which was designed during the Great Famine in Maharashtra. And then piggybacking on that success, NRLM came. Of course, it was dependent on the SRP model of Andhra Pradesh, Kudumbashree of Kerala, which came. So I think the beauty of NRLM is involving communities, and not only communities, it is solely dependent on women. 50% of our population, if you see, is women. But unfortunately, they are relegated into the background, and many times they are not really considered while making decisions, giving them places of importance and, really accepting them as contributors to the economy. The moment they catalyze this force in NRLM, the transformation is there for us to see. So I think that is the greatest growth of society, that you involved women in a
in an
collective.
economic setup.
Correct. And empowered them. And the social inclusion led to financial, economic inclusion and sustainable livelihoods. So that is the beautiful journey.
I was also reading about you and I got to know you are very interested in research. And you've been, I think, researching and doing your PhD right now on deserted women and the issues relating to deserted women. I think this is a very imperative aspect, probably not thought about. And even if we look at, data and statistics, you will not find a lot of data in terms of deserted women in particular. How do you look at this aspect and what do you think could be done for this?
So Mahalakshmi Saras is one of the very big markets we provide. In Maharashtra, it's one of the biggest self-help group markets. Like, you have this Ajivika Saras Mela. So when I was the NRLM CEO, and normally the more of the interactions used to happen in these melas. And then when I did the first mela after I joined after 3 months, I asked some of the women about their family. And it was then I realized that they would share that their husbands have left them and they're alone. And it was to be a great shock for me to realize that despite this difficulty in their life, they are so positive. But nobody discusses about them. They're totally unrecognized. Nobody understands what their agony is. Nobody understands what all the support they need. And that was when I felt that it's very important to study this aspect. So there are only a couple of people who have done research on this in Maharashtra. There is a society called Sopecom, or there is a very famous lawyer from Delhi, Kirti Singh. She has worked on this. I read their books. And I realized that this is a very deep problem, socially, economically, culturally. So it's a multi-pronged issue which really needs to be thought of, because even government has policies which mentions deserted women, but they are just a sentence. Deserted women are not a sentence. There is a whole category, a whole group of them. So it's a very difficult situation for them. And then I felt that I should somehow highlight this point and present it. And so I started my work on that.
True. When it comes to gender equality, inclusion, I think we are still seeing a lot of inequality, irrespective of whatever we say. What do you think can be done to actually empower women? And if I ask you maybe 3 things that you would suggest in terms of policy interventions to get to what we aim for?
There are instances where women are perhaps, singled out and deprived of the positions they should really be on because of the fact that they are from the particular gender. So the mindset, I think, first is very important, because people like you and me who are in this position today, capable of talking or being where we are here because somebody supported us. So I think the first thing, if a woman wants to develop and come out of this, shell, she has to be very open and forthright in saying that I need this support and I deserve it as much as you have. And second part is the feeling of guilt. I'm going to talk for very social aspects. Other parts of the government I'll come to. This feeling of guilt is another thing which I feel most of the women undergo. So that is something which I feel one should really, look at. And if you see, so far as government is concerned, reservation and all is fine. If you have reservation, it has really helped. But more than that, I feel that the capacity building of women still is very important. Secondly, there should be specifically economically, much of them don't have any property on their name. Yeah. So like land rights, I think today also is a very important aspect. Saat bara pe kiska naam hai. So couple of these kind of interventions where the rights of a woman are recognized, and specifically in relation to deserted women, if you see, they don't even have their ration card with them. They don't have Aadhaar card with them when they leave their home. Their Stridhan remains in the house of the husband. So social as well as some of these interventions administratively, I suppose, probably could really help.
That's true. And coming to a national level perspective, is there any suggestion from your side, having worked at a policy implementation level to quite an extent, to look at policies a little differently for women? Is there anything that you would like to suggest?
So yeah, like inclusivity is something which should not be, a lip service, I feel. So how does one really, take it forward is something very difficult to really, talk about basically. But I feel that there can be certain empowering techniques with which women can become more and more involved, better facilities for women. There could be some incentives in income tax, I feel, basically, if for working women or for the enterprises which are there. Particularly industrial parks can be perhaps set up for them, or specifically corporates. Like we have companies like Tata now. Yeah. There is Tata Harrier. They have a assembly line which they have fully managed by women. But also at the same time, I feel that it's really, if you separate that way also is not very good. Yeah. Because society as such, ultimately, it's like a car. If you don't have all the four wheels, then you cannot balance life. So I hope the mind changes sooner. So that might help.
Yeah. Perfect. So really commendable work, and thank you so much for being here.
I'm also extremely thankful to ISB because you have initiated these dialogues for human development. I think an institution of your stature contributing to the thought process will really lead to the change. So I really compliment you, and I'm extremely grateful to you and your management for having thought of this, because I think this will be the game changer and lead to real development of society.
Thank you so much once again.
Thanks so much.